completely out of hand. Let me begin by saying that by the end of today, 5,800 babies will be born in Kenya by the end of every day. And about 80% of them will be born to dysfunctional homes. Now, when I say dysfunctional, I don't just mean single parent homes. There are homes with both parents that are actually quite dysfunctional. Now, you asked, how did we get here? And I'll be getting into that in just a moment. Let me mention that the relationship that we have with our parents in our growing up years, this relationship forms the template or forms the mold for all subsequent relationships. And children are designed to be raised by, listen carefully, a male father and a female mother. I mean, we have to say it that way these days because the words father and mother have changed meaning in some contexts. And the male father and female mother each has a unique role to play in the raising and development of children. So when a child grows up in a single parent home, this template that they're exposed to has some cracks in it. And the resulting lives that come from this template will inevitably have cracks. And the single parent home lacks the wholesome stability that children need to give resilience. It lacks the wholesome stability that children need to give resilience to their character. So when teachers, for example, in a school, notice a child struggling in their relationships, they often want to find out what's going on in the home of that child. Why is this child struggling at school? So you look at the picture that's emerging, and it's actually not a new picture, but the acceleration is what seems to be new. And in a moment, I'll be mentioning about a dozen different ways in which people become single parents. You'll find that many people who are seeking therapy have lost a level of confidence in how they perceive themselves. And this is often generated in relationships within the home. And the single parent home generates a lot of this. Now, how did we get here? Let me mention about 11 or 12 different ways in which single parents emerge. One is by divorce. And no matter the reasons, when that happens, the child falls between the cracks. One is by separation. So it's not an official divorce, but they are separated. One, of course, is death of spouse, which is a most unfortunate situation. And the single parent in that situation could not have brought that upon themselves, but it does happen. The fourth way is by children born after rape. The father who raped, the man who raped, had no intention of fathering a child. The woman had no intention of getting pregnant, but there we are. We have a single mother and by rape, or by number 5, by incest. And so you find that the father of this child cannot marry the woman because they are siblings, they are related. But then there are other situations. How did we get here? By single people being coerced. And guess what? By their own parents. I have met parents, and especially mothers, who tell their daughters, I want to be named. And you're getting up there in years. The next time I see you, I don't want to see you like this. So a mother putting her own daughter under pressure. The funny thing is that this mother may be very well spoken of in the church, but her traditional values are pushing her to want to be named. And she doesn't care how this daughter is going to get that child. She just wants to be named. Number 7, the pressure of society. And this is mostly experienced by women in the age group 28 to 31. I remember one time I was asked to write articles for the Nairobian. And I said to them that my articles will contain the Bible. And they said, no, we don't want the Bible. And I asked them, who's your target? They said, single woman, age 29. Apparently, there are enough of them to warrant the production of a daily paper. So between ages 28 and 31, there's pressure, societal pressure. And the woman is hearing the statement like, your biological clock is running out. Now, some people react to that differently. Others just close their ears or don't respond to it. But others succumb to it and say, listen, I have a good job. My clock is running out. And they become single mothers by choice. Now, a person in that situation is a very difficult situation because she sees nothing wrong that she's done. She's become a single mother by choice. And when she begins to experience challenges with the children, it's a very tough situation to be in. But then others, still under this societal pressure, they decide to become concubines. They decide to become a girlfriend to someone, to mother somebody's children. They're not officially married to them, but they are visited often by this man. This man may take some financial burden off this woman. This man is usually a married man, and but effectively they are single parenting. And then, of course, some of them get into dysfunctional polygamous marriages, and that has its own complications. The eighth way of getting into single parenting, which is not usually considered single parenting, is separation by geography. You'll find that a man is working in Kampala, the woman is in Nairobi. They are not officially separated, they are not divorced, but functionally they are running that home like single parents. And whether you've gone to study or gone to work, the children experience the one parent there as a single parent. The other one may call in often, but they don't experience them. Kids are designed to be raised by both parents. You can't delegate those relationships. And then 2 or 3 more. When there's an affair in the marriage, usually the wife is neglected. The man pays attention to his newfound love. And that woman, though not officially divorced or separated, begins to function like a single woman. Then there's the issue of disagreement between husband and wife. You have a situation where a man wants 5 children, the woman only wants 2. So he goes out to sire other children outside of that marriage, completely unknown to the woman. And that's a terrible situation. But Raymond, there is one single parent that I applaud. This is the single parent by adoption. I've met women in their early 40s who are quite sure they're not getting married anytime soon, who walk into an adoption agency and in their own mind, they are rescuing a child from a difficult adoption home into a loving environment. And many of these women will already have done their homework and have their mothers and fathers who become grandparents to this child. They have them as the backup in helping raise this child. And so with all these scenarios, let me say, when you meet a single parent, usually a mother, not exclusively, but usually a mother, don't judge them because you don't know how they became single. Raymond?
Thank you, Dr. Mukolo. Just listening to you, I don't know whether you touched on single parents that could be fathers.
Well, yes, there could be, and there are, but it's a fairly small percentage. And those would usually be the wife has died, there's a divorce, and in that particular community, the children stay with the father. Or the mother has a mental illness and the court rules that the father must keep that child. Yes, they are there. And as I mentioned earlier on, children are designed to be raised by both parents. Now, a single father or a single mother can raise a child to maturity, physical maturity.
Yeah.
But there is more to raising children than getting them above age 18. There is a character formation, and both parents must contribute to the character and values of that child before that child can join community in a wholesome manner.
Very well. So what is this that the president is asking us to, what is he warning us? What is his quotes percentages and says, if this trend continues, we will have a problem? What is this? Because yes, it's true. I mean, there are many circumstances we've got to do. So what is this he's really highlighting?
Let me go back, Raymond. Let me go back to 2009 when he said that we were 25.1% in 2009. Now, friends, that's bad enough. Even if we had remained there 10 years later, it would be a bad situation. Look at Nigeria, look at China, they're below 5% in the single parenthood. Now, when a child, as I mentioned before, the wholesome home, where there's father and mother, caring father and mother, you form a template that shapes the values, that shapes the life of this child. When one person is missing, the child that emerges may grow to maturity, may get a job, but there's something missing in their character. And if this is not sorted out, it's going to be replicated in the next generation. So a 10%, a 13% increase in 10 years could easily exponentially increase in coming years and have a society where the values of families are no longer honored. It's a matter of majority. When the majority takes over, you begin to despise marriage. You begin to, and anytime someone speaks against single parenthood, they feel like the single parent is being attacked, when in fact, that's not the issue. You need to admit that children need both parents, and status quo cannot be accepted as normal. And we must arrest it. If we do nothing about it, it will continue to develop in that way. And we'll have cracks in our families and society.
Is there a chance that, and probably you will make a small comment, I know you've been gracious enough to give us a bit of your precious time before you travel, but is there a chance that there is something the fathers are contributing to this problem?
Oh, yes. Raymond, unless the father has died, every child has a father somewhere. Every single mother, there's a man behind that mother. Every child that you meet out there that claims not to know their father, that father exists somewhere. So yes, men have a huge contribution to make. And many of these men are married men. So one of the main reasons why the problem becomes difficult to resolve is because the women to whom these men are married have no idea that these men have other children outside there. And the men are not willing to disclose it because to put their marriage, their core family in jeopardy. And so men need to own up. You see, when a man has an affair and the wife finds out, she's devastated, rightfully so. Now, at the point of admitting your affair, your wife is so broken that you might as well admit everything. It will be terrible to resolve this one situation only to discover there are children out there. At that point, it's time to say, yes, this is true. I'm sorry about it. And it's a lot worse than this. You know, the fear that will destroy the home is genuine. But very often, as a 61-year-old man, I can tell you, things aren't always as bad as they seem. So we shouldn't work with our fear as the reality that will happen when the truth is known. But we should disclose the whole thing. Let me mention something else. Women are very resilient people. Some women are willing to forgive their husband's affairs and take in the children from those affairs, as long as the man makes a commitment not to continue that relationship. So yes, men are responsible for it. If a man is married, he knows he's married. You cannot blame the single woman for luring him. He is the one who should say, no, I'm a married man. I shouldn't go there. And so, yes, fully responsible.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Mukolo. I know, as I said earlier, that you have to be on your way. We're going to switch gears to the guru of men, Pastor Mbevi. Pastor Mbevi is with us, and he has done a lot on the Man Enough program. He has talked about this for years. We all know him. Everyone knows that Pastor Mbevi is associated to the Man Enough program. Pastor Mbevi, tell us, what is this about men that we need to know that can begin helping us see how we retain the balance that Dr. Mkolwe has talked, that children need the balance of formation or character development or character training from both parents? Karibu, Dr. Pastor Mbevi.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Ray. I'm glad to be here, and also I was glad to listen to some of the things that my good friend, Dr. Stanley, has said. And maybe as I get down to where the men are and what we can do to help them, if you allow me, Ray, I'll just share 4 slides here that captures the situation and brings up some of those issues, and then we can have a bit of a discussion as well. If I could be enabled to share, is it possible for me to share my screen? Yes, I can now. So I'll just mention a few things. Some of them Dr. Stanley has mentioned, so I'll skip those and then mention a few others that will give us a bit of a perspective. But also, Ray, want to invite all those who have joined us, who are part of Sober Sunday conversation. Again, you're welcome in this conversation because this is where we are doing it. I think the statement has been made by Dr. Stanley. There are thousands of children today growing up with no opportunity to know or connect appropriately with their father. This has really become a fatherless generation by and large. I think Dr. Mukolo said the majority of those growing up with a single parent, the single parent that is missing is a father. And someone else said the hardest part about being a single parent is not having anyone to step in and take over when you're overwhelmed. So a lot of overwhelmed parents, a lot of unfathered or unparented children. That's a reality that we have, which is not proper. Parenting alone, personal circumstances, separation, divorce, abandonment, even death. I think my case, my mother raised me up alone because of death. My father died when I was 8, but that still did not spare me some of the gaps and struggles that I went through as a result. Leaves the main custodial, remaining parent having to cope with all the caregiving, nurturing, role modeling, discipline, challenges, rewards, obstacles, joys. I mean, you feel tired by just counting those roles being done by one parent. Meant for the partnership of 2. And it can be both overwhelming and wonderful because, I mean, it's still wonderful to parent children, but it can be, as well, it can be fulfilling, but very frustrating, nightmarish, and extremely tough all at once. And that does affect just the quality of the children that we are raising. So how did we get here, with an emphasis on the men, as you asked, Ray? The death of the village as we knew it traditionally. Thankfully, Ray, the ladies and mothers seem to still work as a community. It's very hard for a child to lose a mother and not find another mother who would step in and raise them up. But it's very easy for a child to lose a father and no man steps in, like it was in my case and the case of many others. So the death of the village, there was a community of parents who would step in when one leaves or dies to make sure those children don't grow up without parents. That has died. We've become very individualistic. Even in our living quarters, you may find a child wandering on their own there, and nobody really steps in to check what they're doing and talk with them. Changes in family values, as it had been said earlier, for men and women, men not valuing their role as fathers, and women as well, feeling like I can do without the man as well. I can do this by my own. Let me just do it. I'm just going to spam donors and telling, some men, just give me a child, but I don't want you to get involved. Just those change in family values have affected this matter. Incorrect assumptions. I think traditionally we used to say the child belongs to the mother. But also I think we have heard theories that have been put out to show that dads only help. They don't play a very crucial role and only act as spare tire. Of course, a reason the last 15, 20 years, a lot of study has been published to show how fathers are very crucial, and their absence really does affect the social, logical, psychological health, and even physical health of the children. Work realities as well. I think, Ray, you would agree. It's a lot easier for men to leave their family to go for work outside of a country than it is for women, just because naturally women are more involved with family. Of course, women are beginning to find that those realities, living for years and being separated with their children, but predominantly men do that sometimes without even thinking twice, even when they have young children. We talked about men, and sometimes it's just plain irresponsibility of men, just lack of commitment. In Man Enough, we have challenged many men and just said, go back and get involved. You were involved in the first place out of pleasure. Now go and get involved. That child needs you. You're very crucial to your child. And some have actually gone back and said, I am now involved. I wasn't involved before. So lack of commitment, sometimes just neglect. There was a divorce case or a separation and they didn't work much to try and be involved. Sometimes it's mothers who just don't want to involve them, or they because they have an issue with the man, that they don't want the man involved. There are many times I've talked to the mothers and said, please allow this father to get involved. He needs to get involved. You may have an issue with the man as your husband, but the children have a right to their father to the degree that is possible and desirable. Of course, I think side chick, Dr. Mokolo talks about it. Absence due to work. We mentioned that. So just lack of involvement of the man, passivity sometimes, where the man could be there, but of not much concern. Or he doesn't feel like he needs to be involved much. Few mentors as well. Ray, we have trained some mentors at Transform Nation, and almost every week. This week, I think I got 3 calls. Every week we get calls from single moms saying, can I get someone who can walk with my son? Because I can't find a man who would get involved. Can you help me find one? Every week we get those calls. And many times we just don't find the mentors or the father figures. We've been also training some teachers to be like father figures to the children in the class, like my music teacher became to me because I didn't have a father, or even surrogate fathers who would be available to get involved. This is not easy to find. And sometimes it's just men feeling, I'm not equipped. I really don't know what to do and how to connect with these children, and I don't have the skills. And that's why I think a lot of us here have started interventions for the men to train them about fathering. We have intentional dads, which is a course we do, and many others here will come shortly. We'll talk about their courses. But men, when a man doesn't feel equipped or feels like he doesn't have what it takes to do the right thing and connect with the children, they pull away, because men fear failure and rejection as well in that way. And so if they don't feel like they have what it takes to connect with these children, many will just stay away. And not fight to get involved. And lastly is addictions, especially in rural areas of this country. I've been involved a lot in Makueni, a lot of addictions, alcoholism, that a man is there, but for every practical reason is dysfunctional as a father. Drugs, addictions to sex and affairs and things like those can actually carry the men away from the very crucial role of fatherhood. And lastly, Ray, I think it's just to say a lot of men don't realize how important they are in their fathering role. That is really makes a difference. So I believe some of the things we need to do to add to what Dr. Mukolo said is challenge and equip the men to rise up, not only to raise their own children, but to get involved with their extended family where the father is not there for them to get involved. We need to multiply mentors and father figures to make sure there are enough in churches and other places to go around. We need friendly policies and practices so that a man doesn't just get birth from his own children because the lady or the mother of the children complaints, but there are ways that we want the men to be involved. We need to rehabilitate the men out of drugs and alcoholism and GBV, so they can then get back to a place where they can play their good role and reconcile. We need these conversations and efforts of challenging the men and bringing them to get involved more and talking to the ladies to allow and create space in churches, government, schools, corporates, the media. We really need to have this conversation. I'm glad that the president brought it up. And lastly, we need to equip the single moms. And at Transform Nations, we have a single moms program. We call it Mothering of Sons. And it started because a lot of these mothers will come and say, how do we help these boys? We don't know what to do. And we say, let's help you and bring in mentors, but also teach you on how to work with them so that you do your part as mentors and father figures coming. So, yeah, I think that's what I would say from that presentation, and just say, I think as a nation and a specific appeal to especially the men, we have a very crucial role to make sure that no child is raised without a father figure, whatever the circumstances and whatever happens, right?
Thank you. Always very refreshing to listen to you, Pastor Mbevi. You're very passionate about this topic. We'll probably get back to you at some point, and I think you have already set the scene between yourself and Dr. Mukolo on, where is the problem, what is its cause, potentially what are the challenges the men are going through. I wanted to switch a bit to the people who are now trying to do something about it, to try and ask them, what is it that they are doing with the different initiatives that they have. Meanwhile, please feel free to jot any questions that you may have for Dr. Mukolo and Simon Mbevi. And as we get into the other session, this other session, they could be answering the questions on the chat. So I'd like to invite Dr. Caesar Mwangi from the Hub Temanini. They have a Boys to Men transition program. And I know in parallel, they usually have a kikao for wazes, for the fathers during this period to get them talking. Something similar is done by Victor Salamba in Awakening Minds. They have a kikao, they have the Boys to Men transition program. These programs have been very successful. We have Boniface Kagiri with his Mother's Delight. You probably help us understand what is this about Mother's Delight. And he's involved with a number of initiatives of bringing fathers and their children, trying to get this responsibility that Pastor Mbevi was mentioning. And then Mongera Mutiga has been doing quite a number of interesting initiatives the last 2 or 3 years since I met him. There are all these programs that we have, virtual programs, etc. I would like to invite them to tell us, what are these programs and how are they closing this gap? And I would like to start with Dr. Caesar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Raymond, and really a very wonderful scene setting by Pastor Mbevi and by Dr. Mukolo. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And I think as I listened to you, I did realize the complexity of what we are dealing with, the complexity of what the president was actually lamenting about. And I was most delighted that actually the president did raise this issue in a national address in a very important day, because I think this has been an issue which somehow is swept under the carpet often. So I'll just talk very briefly about the Hub with Emanini, because there are various programs. What are we doing about the situation? What are we doing to close the gap? And I'd just like to, first of all, say it is a complex situation. And the Hub with Emanini has therefore decided to focus on a very simple approach, which is easy to follow. Number one, we say we want to form future fathers, future responsible fathers. I think that is a focus of our program. And that comes at the age of initiation, usually around 13, 14 years. And we're saying we are not looking at these boys as boys, but we're looking at future fathers who will be responsible and who will be able to take us to the next generation. Number two, in the same breath, as we run this program, the initiation program, we have very close collaboration with the fathers. And the second point that we focus on is supporting current fathers. And I think this talks to what Pastor Mbevi was talking about, that we've got to work with fathers who may have certain tendencies, certain lack of knowledge, certain lack of awareness. So forming future fathers and supporting current fathers is really the thrust of the Hub with Emanini program. And then we then ask ourselves, naturally, what do we focus on as we are taking these boys through this initiation program? And it's not only the physical initiation, but it's also the mental initiation. There is that change that is taking place in their minds. We form them to be very good future fathers. And the emphasis, therefore, has been really on their character formation, which really is the crux of the matter. And their character formation is really about the habitual practice of virtues in their lives, habitually. And we start planting those seeds in them so that they understand that the life they will lead, which should be a good life, should be one where they regularly or habitually practice certain virtues. And of course, there are many virtues, but we tend to focus on the main virtues, which they will tend to take with them and understand. And as we go through this with the young men, we also impart this same knowledge to the fathers, because the fathers are the role models for these young men. And we know that there's a very basic fact and reality that children or young people, they learn ways. First of all, they learn on what they see in their significant adults around them. They learn from what they see. So as people say, monkey see, monkey do. They learn from what they. If a young man living with his father at home, which is quite common among the people who come in this program, then the young man is learning from that father. That's the first thing. The second thing, the young people learn from what they are repeatedly made to do. Right? If they're repeatedly made to tidy their rooms, they're repeatedly made to say a prayer before a meal, they're repeatedly made to clean their homes, whatever the case is, whatever. They also learn from that, because these are the important things which are being imparted from their parents or the significant adults who are there with them. And then finally, the third way they learn is from what they hear. Now, we often tend to speak a lot to young people, but remember, they learn first by what they see. So we tend to try and very much raise the awareness of the fathers, especially, that their own conduct is the most important teaching that their children, the young men, are taking up. And therefore, if we expect their young men to become responsible fathers, then it is important that the father starts teaching that from his own conduct. And one of the most powerful, one of the most important parts of that conduct is the love and care that a father has for the mother. Because we feel that this is the beginning of the real solid relationship of a responsible father, the love that father has for the mother. And this has to be demonstrated in every home. And we raise this awareness. And by the way, as Pastor Mbevi mentioned, some of the parents are not aware. Some of the fathers are not aware. Some of them are so busy, they're out there. They are not really present in the home, and they don't know that they don't know. This is what we call unconscious incompetence. And we try and raise the awareness in the fathers that they have an important role to be present and to demonstrate love, especially for their wives through the difficulties. And just to very briefly touch on some of the basic virtues, if you think about it, a lot of the problems, in fact, which Pastor Mbevi mentioned, are caused by a lack of understanding, a lack of practice of virtues, out of ignorance, out of not knowing, or out of seeing examples of vices that have become normal in society. And some of the forces in society also are impacting so much on the family and on the parents, on the father. We often emphasize in our discussions and raising awareness, we emphasize that there are two forces that we need to be very much aware of. They have grown exponentially over the last 30 or 40 years. And those are the forces of individualism and the forces of materialism, okay? Whereby everything is judged about what is important is what is good for me at the end of the day, and I don't care about the rest. And that may be seen from the phrase that I think Pastor Mbevi mentioned, that we don't have the village anymore. It's because of the huge increase in the concept or the idea of individualism as a superior value in society. Okay, and the other one, of course, is materialism. That what is important is what you have, what you accumulate, and that shows your success. And we try and raise awareness that that is not real success. Okay, but real success comes from being able to nurture a family, to bring up responsible adults, just the same way as I said, we are trying to raise up these young men. So we then focus on the various key virtues, for example, prudence, which is about right judgment, being able to choose right from wrong. And we feel that as people are able to choose, these young men will be able to choose what is right and wrong, and their parents or their fathers are also able to choose between what is right and wrong. We are likely then to have fathers in the future who are able to choose what is right and wrong, because to abandon your family is obviously wrong. Yeah. And sometimes we don't understand this, but a prudent person who thinks through their decisions is able to choose that indeed, yes, there may be challenges, but I have to choose what is right. What is right not only for me, but what is right for others. And the second thing, of course, is the issue of justice. Justice is a virtue. And believe it or not, there are many parents who don't understand that they have to exercise the virtue of justice, and the sense of responsibility for the families they're bringing up, for the children they're bringing up, for their spouses, you know, and sometimes they're not aware. But the fact, once they realize that this is a virtue that is important, they've got to be just and fair to all those around them, starting with their family members, and then go on to the wider society. Then they can practice this, and they are likely then to have a much better family life, a much better future for their children, and of course, likely to impart the idea of justice to their children or their sons much better. There's, of course, the whole idea of fortitude. I mean, fortitude is so critical because we're saying, yes, there will be difficulties. There will certainly be difficulties, but we've got to learn to endure the difficulties. We've got to learn to solve the problems that face us every day. They will come, but they've got to demonstrate that by practicing this virtue on a daily basis in their families. And then their sons will see them practicing this virtue, and they will pick up this virtue. And the final one, which is very broad also, which is very important, is the whole concept of temperance and the whole issue of self-discipline, you know, self-restraint, and avoiding self-indulgence and moderation, you know. These are things which I think over the years have been there, but they've been eroded over time. So in our programs, we impart these to the young men, yes, but we impart them also to the fathers. So the fathers are aware that these are the keys that will unlock the possibility for them to raise up young men who will then become future fathers who are responsible. Because remember, when we talk about the family, we are not talking about a contract with a business. We are talking about future generations that are depending on this family to either become better future generations or worse off future generations. And I think this is why the president was so concerned, because he was basically saying, if we don't understand the intergenerational impact of what we're doing in the present, then we're in for a disaster in the future, which is going to be a huge calamity for society and the whole collapse of our society. And I think this is why he had the courage actually to raise this particular issue. So in the Hub with Amanini, we are asking our fathers, and we also bring in our mothers, because we also have a girls program, and we ask them to think long term. Yes, we shall be here even if God gives us 100 years to live. It's temporary. We're going to leave the next generation behind, and the next generation will leave the next generation. We are just here to lay the foundations for better future generations. And this is the emphasis of Hub with Amanini in a nutshell, despite the context.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Caesar, as well. Always a pleasure to hear your words. Interesting there, talking about awareness. And I know you probably will delve into the deeper ways you will bring men and, put them in the fire there and get to speak and get them to speak as well. This concept of awareness, I think it's very critical, and I think most of the programs in this, among the panelists who are here, this is what they are trying to do. Of course, we have Pastor Mbevi alerting us that the collapse of a village has kind of created a problem, in terms of whether sons are able to get attention from the rest of the village. And of course, we've talked about globalization, etc. I know Bwana Boniface Kagiri has been working over years on this awareness. Talk to us, Boni, about your program, about Mother's Delight, and probably help us understand why you call it Mother's Delight. Karibu Kagiri.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Raymond, and thanks for putting this together. And thanks to all the other speakers who are present. My name is Kagiri. I run a program called Mother's Delight. And Mother's Delight is all about taking dads who intentional or being deliberate about spending time with their kids. So we take the dads out with their children and they leave the mothers at home. That's why it's called Mother's Delight. But further to that, and adding to what Mukolo, Mbevi, and Caesar have talked about, why we are here, I think it was very important for us to understand the various reasons why we are in this crisis where we're in we have single parenting and why it's a concern for us. I think Mukolwe and Mbevi were very clear about that. And I want to speak a little bit about what Caesar has said about the kind of values I had been mentioning and virtues, and what is the role of a dad in delivering this. And from a Mother's Delight perspective, we bring the outdoors, outdoor experiences in such a way that the dads have an opportunity to spend time with their kids and actually transfer these values and virtues. If you want to teach your kid about patience or courage or temperance or order or humility, gratitude, whatever it is that you want to transfer, then the opportunity sort of naturally presents itself. And this is what the dads who have been in the program will tell you after they have come through an experience in the outdoors. And normally it's a sort of quote unquote hardcore experience because it's outdoors and camping, and can be quite rough sometimes, but that's also not a bad thing. And at Mother's Delight, after giving that enabling environment for dads to bond with their kids and get to know their kids better. And by the way, also, I have come to learn later for kids also to know their dads a little bit better. We also tried to, as much as possible, equip dads, let's say, by offering an opportunity where there can be some form of sharing. So as we know, men are not really coded to really speak out. There's a lot of that topic going on around now, but it's not really a bad thing because it's sort of a natural coding of sorts. But we try and create an environment also where men are able to share, and the solutions come from their fellow men in sort of what I would call an environment of a safe environment, let me put it that way, or an environment that can be trusted. So clouded by all that, we know very well what we are ordained to do, so to speak, as men, is to provide leadership in the family, and provide materially for the family, and also to protect the family. And in doing all that, if you're going to offer leadership, it means you will have to spend time with the people in your family. It could be your children, your wife, and these experiences that are outdoors present a perfect opportunity for you to spend some time, some good quality time with your kids. And we say that if you're to spend this quality time with your children and transfer these values and these virtues, that time also has to be quantity. So you cannot have 5 minutes of quality time and it's only 5 minutes. The quantity has to be there, because then the opportunities present themselves for you to transfer these values and these virtues, the more time you have with the child. So from that perspective, that kind of presence is very important. So the other thing we have come to see over time, experienced, and we've tried to work around it, and it's related to the topic at hand and the president's concern about single families, is that sometimes there is no father figure in the lives of these children who come from single families. For whatever reason, the reasons Mukolo mentioned, for whatever reason it is, the point is there needs to be a father figure of sorts. The mother will not, if it's in the case of a lady bringing up a single child, she may not be able to 100% play the role of the dad, much as she might work very hard and try to provide, but there's just that natural element that a dad provides that a lady may not be able to provide, if I may speak to that. So we have a lot of dads who come also with these children we are talking about, because they are now the father figures of these children. And you observe over time how the children begin to change sorry, excuse me, their approach to life, even their view of life. And you can just see some of them just over time becoming more courageous, becoming more purposeful, becoming even more assertive, because of this presence of a father figure around them who they're able to spend long periods of time at a time together. So yeah, so in a nutshell, those are the concerns we try to address at Mother's Delight. That's how we are addressing the how do we address this problem.
I'm very curious with this safe space. What is this safe space for these men? Can you highlight a bit more? What is it that the men want? How is it that they can, you could say, understand or be aware of this role that they need to perform? Because one of the things we are saying is that maybe they are not aware. Then secondly, sometimes work takes them away. So when you create this safe space, what happens in this safe space?
Well, thank you for that question. I think because you realize that you sort of bring a group of men together who are being very deliberate, very purposeful, very intentional, that alone brings some common ground. And after that common ground has been created and people begin talking, and you sort of structure the conversations where it is only them who are involved in the conversation, then you realize that people are at least able to open up, a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, like I said before, that helps because every time somebody mentions something they could be going through, they have a fatherhood issue, they have a problem with their child, they want to connect better with their child, and the answer comes from the same safe space where someone has experienced something similar. Then even to even trust that answer and to implement it, obviously is easier. So, and I know, but in many other programs, some of which are run by the people who are here, I know a lot of those safe spaces are also created, and they are good. I think for men, they are very good because for women, it's very easy. But for men, it can be a challenge.
Thank you. I know you didn't want to say they are under fire, enjoying a night out, roasting meat, etc., or roasting some maize.
Absolutely.
But I will leave that to the audience
yes.
to think about. Thank you very much, Bonnie. And you haven't told us about Safari Rally, so we hope how you
very
did
quickly we did take the kids out. I think this weekend to the rally. We have survived camping there. We have managed the traffic, and we are all back in Nairobi safely. And again, it provided this opportunity that we always desire for, to spend some time out there with the kids and do a lot of activities together. On top of the rally, we will make a meal together, we'll hike together, so many things. Yeah, but we've had a good weekend. Thank you very much with the kids.
Thank you. All right, let me switch to Mwangare Mutiga Amos. We have had you, we got to know each other 2-3 years ago. I know you're doing a lot. Tell us about the lot of what you're doing with the men with Papa Bear. Karibu Mwangare. Mwangera, sorry. Are you there, Mwangera? Can you mute? Can you unmute?
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Raymond. So my name is Mwangera Mutiga. I run a program called Papa Bear, and the name is a story for another day. It has a special significance. But the Papa Bear initiative is targeted at fathers, and what we're trying to do is to engage with men to help them improve on their fatherhood and to become exceptional in their fatherhood. The reality is that there are not too many good examples of fathers in today's society. I mean, the older generation, my father, his father, had a lot of examples of good fatherhood, but that is becoming increasingly scarce in this generation. And so, we saw a gap that is existing in society. I actually believe that we are in the middle of a silent pandemic of fatherlessness. If you look at the statistics that the president presented on Madaraka Day this year about the extent of single mother homes in Kenya, it's really bad, and we don't even know yet how bad it is for families where the father is present but not really involved or engaged. We don't know how bad that is. So I think there's a whole pandemic that's ongoing, and it's very silent. We have millions of children, literally millions of children, tens of millions of children in Kenya today who are growing up without an adult male in the home. And that's a problem. And I'll echo what Dr. Mukolo said earlier, that all of those children have a father, unless the father is dead. And the cases of fathers dying are there, but it's not that common. What mostly happens is men walk away from their responsibilities, or for whatever reason, the couple disagrees and the children fall through the cracks. So there's tens of millions of children in Kenya today growing up without male father figures. And that is a big problem. We've not even started to see the real effect of it yet. Now, this initiative that I started about 3 years ago is really to help engage men. And we do 4 things. Number one, we equip men. So we do what we can to engage, provide resource, provide people who can help and give insights, give instruction to these men. We use biblical principles because the whole principle is based on the biblical model of fatherhood. And we use these models to equip men to be better fathers. So that's number one. Number two, we create awareness about what fatherhood is, how fatherhood adds value to children in the long run. You know, what we know, and I think a number of speakers have mentioned this, that, you know, the absence of a father figure has detrimental effects on the child in the long run. Now, you know, that can happen for reasons that are beyond anybody's control, but the effect is still the same. And so to the extent that it's possible, we want to try and ensure that we create awareness about this dynamic and get men to understand the importance of their involvement, their continual engagement in their children's lives. So that's number two. Number three, we do what we call practical action. So, and it's very similar to what Kagiri is doing in terms of getting men to practically engage with their children. And we have programs that are designed to help men do practical things with their kids. What we've discovered in the course of our research is that a lot of men just don't know how to hang out with children. They just think it's simple, or, you know, just be in their presence and you're on your phone the whole time. But just the practical skill to be able to engage the child, that I think mothers are better equipped for and are more naturally inclined towards. For many men, we struggle with that. You don't know what to do. If you're left with your 2 or 3 kids for, let's say, a Saturday afternoon, you don't know what to do with them. You know, you can take them to a place where they can go and play, but in terms of your practical engagement with them, that there are not many men who know what to do. And so we try and develop a program that helps to provide practical action for men. What can you tangibly do? What are the specific things that you can do with your children, depending on their ages, that helps to engage them and helps with the transference of the knowledge that you have as a father, and helps with the bonding as well. So that's number 3. And then fourthly, we have what we call community. And we've discovered that, you know, men work better when there's a sort of support group around them. And, you know, it's not just any men, but men who are working with them, men who are involved, who are engaged, men who understand, men who are the same age, who are dealing with the same issues in terms of their fatherhood. And that has really helped because, as we all know, for all of us who are dads, you know that fatherhood changes because your children are also changing as they grow. So the issues they're dealing with a preteen are very different from somebody who has a toddler or an infant. If you have you know, a young adult child, that's a very different set of issues than somebody who has children who are in preschool. So just developing community around shared experience of fatherhood has really helped to sort of grow the community. So the community is part of a bigger project called the Legacy Project, where, you know, we're looking long term at securing the future for the next generations, the generations to come, by, you know, equipping men to be the providers of, you know, instruction, structure, identity, you know, and socioeconomic power to our children for the long term. So the Papa Bear initiative is sort of like an offshoot of the Legacy Project, which is a bigger issue. One of the things that a few of the things that we've come to discover in the course of our work over the past few years is that, you know, there's a number of things, and I think both Pastor Simon and Dr. Mkolo have highlighted these. But I just want to reiterate them because we found them to be very critical in terms of what drives success with fathers in particular. And one of these is the lack of example. You know, a lot of men have no idea what fatherhood means because they've never had a father, not in any tangible way, not in any serious way. And this is getting worse because as this pandemic, this silent pandemic of fatherlessness continues to escalate, we're going to have fewer and fewer good examples of good fathers. And so, you know, the outlook is kind of bleak for fatherhood in the future unless we do something about it. The other thing that we've seen is that there's a distinct sense from a number of men of unwillingness to take responsibility for their actions, especially where the family is concerned. And they believe that women are the ones who take care of the home. And it starts from as early as, you know, contraception and conception, really. You know, I've had debates with men on social media about contraception, and there are people who believe that contraception is a woman's job. So if a woman gets pregnant, that's on her. She should have protected herself. And so therefore, if she's a single mom, that's her problem. She's the one who brought it upon herself, which is a very twisted way of looking at things. And unfortunately, there's a lot of men who think that way. So we find that that's a big problem, that men are not taking responsibility because they don't believe that that their role as father is crucial or is necessary or is relevant. Or they believe that the woman is the one who takes care of the family, and so therefore they have no role to play. And that's a big problem. Some men also have fear of failure, and I think that's already been touched on. You don't want to fail, so you don't want to try. You saw your father as an alcoholic, or he was violent, or he was absent, and you don't want to be like him, so you don't even try. And that's also a problem. We've also seen that there's a lot of negative narratives going around in the media. This is sort of like on the other hand, where men or even fathers are seen as being either incompetent, they don't know what they're doing, or they're dangerous. So, he's going to fight, he's going to beat you up, he's going to do something dangerous to you. Or he's unreliable. So at some point in time, he's just going to disappear on you and leave you alone. He's a deadbeat. So there's this narrative that's being built up in the media about the role of men in families, which we find troubling as this community. And we want to try and do something about that. And that's part of the awareness that we're building through our programs, just to highlight the many, many good men, the many good fathers who are doing a good job out there. Interacting with you, Raymond, and seeing this group of men doing all these wonderful programs, it just goes to show that there's a lot of men out there who are willing to take responsibility and are doing their best. And these negative narratives that are in the media, both on social media and on mainstream media, we need to counter them and really show that this is not all a bad thing. Because our young sons are seeing this and they're asking themselves, then what is my role as a man? What am I going to do as a father if fathers are useless? So we need to counter that, and that's part of what we do. And just really to highlight some of the good role models that we have of fatherhood today. I think there's numerous of them. Nobody's perfect, obviously. We all have our issues, we all have our history, we all have our past. There's all stuff that we were dealing with. But there's a number of good role models, and we need to highlight them. We need to know who they are. We need to talk about them. And I think this platform is a very good way of doing that. And all the work that my colleagues are doing in the different areas of influence is part of that narrative. Raymond, I've been invited to forums. Dr. Caesar and the Habit the Manini group have invited me for a couple of forums, and it's amazing to see how many men are sold out to their fatherhood, and they're engaged and they're involved with their sons and doing a very deliberate work to raise their sons in the right way. I'm also privileged to be part of Dr. Mukolo's Raising Future Parents class. I'm one of the facilitators of that class. And it's just amazing to see that there's men out there who are doing a good job. And we really need to talk about, we need to highlight them for the sake of the future generation. So that's what we do as Papa Bear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mutiga. Again, always a pleasure to hear what you're trying to do and how you're trying to reach out to all the men out there. Well, a couple of things there that you've all brought up that probably we can start thinking about. There's a question that had been posted to us. What are the top 5 key functions of a father that can be delegated or postponed to a later? Because I think one of the biggest temptation to the single parenthood is this factor of not needing men. So maybe deep down, we need to really articulate what is this that the men do. And then on the other hand, of course, it's true, it's by nature, it's very natural for a lady to nurture. It's not always very natural for a man. So how do we, on one hand, I think there's this issue of example. Probably we haven't had sufficient examples. We could be thinking about all this, and probably when we come back after the next conversation, which is to touch on religion, where is religion? Where is God? Where is there any? I hear these days people talking about I am spiritual but not religious. So even just talking about your spiritual self, is there something that is unique that men need to think about? And I would like to invite Professor Atea to give us a perspective on this from a Muslim point of view. And then maybe Dr. Caesar can say something small from a Christian point of view. Prof. Atea, karibu.
Thank you very much, Raymond. And it's always a pleasure to listen to men, because every time I listen, I learn new things to make sure that I improve myself as a person. Now, looking at that statistic before I just go to maybe what I had in mind, it's alarming. And that statistic has a lot of the problems are myriad. They originate from several places. Sometimes you are sitting quietly and then you realize something, like the latest ruling in the court. I'm sure we might not want to talk about it, but it has implications going forward. From what has been mentioned, a very key important point to remember is that as a father is you received the baton from your father and you have to pass it to the next generation. And that is both of your children, both girls and boys. So because of that scenario where you have full attentive parents supporting you, you will always realize that the kids grow with a certain kind of confidence. So we have to remember that at the very core, the family is a unit. So we have the unit, which leads us to the tribe, the country, the county, globally. So if we have chaos at the unit, there's no way we have, and that's where the president is coming from. He's saying we have chaos at the unit level. So can we go back at that unit level and see what can be done? And so just if I remember some of the things that I grew up, when I was growing up, the way my father would train us was very, very different. He will ask you a very simple question, but some of them still linger in my mind over the years. One question that he asked me, and I was in standard 5, he said, why do you go to school? Yes, I pay fees, but why? Why do you go to school? I remember I was in standard 5, and I'm thinking, so after mumbling, he said, Ismail, you are going to school to take care of you, your family, your children. That is why you are going to school. That is, remember that. So I thought he had forgotten that. Later, when I was home, I was told by one of my stepbrother's sons, and the same thing. When I finished high school, I was going to teach stay away from home. He asked me another question. Now, you are going to stay away from home and from school. How are you going to live? Now, you see, those kind of questions make you to start thinking, hey, have I thought about how I'm going to live? I have the freedom. I am away from school. I'm away from home. I am staying alone. And he simply said, you are going to see many things. How are you going to stay? So, of course, he was not interested in the answer. He was interested in knowing that you are thinking about it. Okay, so let me switch back to, that one I was just buttressing the point of a unit. Now, let me switch back to the point of religion. Now, and the problems we have are running across religion, clans, and whatever. So there's no faith right now. We can simply say that people are not affected. So it's a global issue. But I want to just mention some of the ways in which I was nurtured into marriage. And it's very interesting. When I was getting married at around 40, now that I was actually mentored for over 6 months, counseled. Now, I was counseled by men, I was counseled by all ladies. At the same time, my wife was also undergoing the same counseling. Some of the questions were very tough. I remember one of the ladies asked me a question. He said, Ismail, one day you come home from work, you find your wife is in the house. She's not talking. She's not saying anything. She's just there. What are you going to do? Now, Raymond, those are questions that can be very, very difficult. But during that particular time, I actually was being asked those questions and being given examples. Now, here is, for me, they were both men and ladies, all ladies, and basically they were trying to tell me how to be able to treat the opposite sex. On the other hand, ladies were also doing the same thing. So my point here is that from a religious perspective, we really need to be able to, okay, before I get there, let me simply mention that we have this problem currently where it's love at first sight. No, I was told love is nurtured. It's nurtured. It's not something that you just see someone today, you are in love, tomorrow you are out of love. No. It's something that is nurtured over the years. And if you do it well, it will get intense with more the years. So the concept of religion is very important to get to that background and be able to tell our young people, both men and women, and in this case, we're talking about fathers, that what we see on TV, what we read in books is just fiction. The real life is where there is a lot of things for you to consider. You have to be compassionate, you have to be able to listen, you have to be able to, sometimes you don't have, because if you get to the point where you're thinking, I always have to get my way, then sometimes you're going to cause problems. So it's something that we have to get back to that. And if you look at it, religion tells us that we have to be compassionate, we have to be understanding, we have to be loving, we have to be nurturing. And in the process of doing that, it makes it easier for you to be able to nurture the next generation. Why? Kids watch carefully what you do, very carefully. So if you are in the home, you are laughing, you are joking, you are compassionate, whatever, they pick it from you, both the boys and girls. So if it is all the time you're in the house, it's like it's a wreck, you are quarreling, you can imagine what they're going to pick up. So the concept is very, very important. At the very background is to ensure that the home is stable. When the home is stable, the kids that will come out of that will definitely have a good sense of direction. So they might not be swayed by what we are talking about, love at first sight, and then next week, oh, I'm out of love, then maybe it's divorce. And that's what the president was talking about. We are having problems that are causing more of this single fatherhood, single motherhood, and yet these are the people whom we need to nurture for a country to exist. That unit level is being messed up. So, Raymond,
Yes.
I've just given you my examples, but basically, that is what I'm simply saying is that we really need to get at the root cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Chair, for those words and for the insights on compassion, and this of course comes from religion. I'm going to just switch some gears here. I know Dr. Caesar was going to say something, but there is this question around what are these top 5 things that only a father can do? And I wanted maybe Dr. Caesar to comment on it. While we also look at the other questions. We are running short of time, as it happens usually in these things. Dr. Caesar, what are these 5 top things that the father is key that probably would eventually convince anyone thinking of single parenthood by choice to consider from the point of view of a male figure or a father figure? Very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly, Raymond. And I usually don't like to be very specific about what is top, but what is important, what is critical. And I think one of the issues follows up on Professor Tea's remarks, and very much in my mind is one of the most important things that a father's role is really, a father is very much linked to the concept of God the Father. And I think we need to understand this, and this is something which we cannot replace. And in this role, the father should be able to guide the family members or the children on the question of who am I, right? And that question is basically answered by saying, I am a child of God, right? And then it goes to the second question of, why am I here? What is my purpose? And the purpose, at least from a Christian perspective, of course, is to know, to love, and to serve God. And I think that is so important that the father makes sure that very basic fundamental foundation of the supernatural level is clearly understood from the father's point of view. And the father needs to model that. And the father, therefore, then, at the supernatural level, has got to actually demonstrate that he is the spiritual head of that home. And that is something that is so, so important for the children to understand. And from that spiritual head of being the spiritual head, you then find that he has a role to play in for example, in blessing those children. Eh? You know, the father's blessing has been something that has been there over the centuries, over the ages. The father has been given that role to bless his children for protection, for guidance, and provide that blessing to the children. Now, I'm not saying that the mother cannot bless the children, but that role has been there for the father, and I do not want to seem like I'm biased here. But this is something that has been ordained for the father, which is so, so critical. And if it is lost somehow, then those children miss something that is very important. The other point I want to mention is the modeling of the faith. The modeling of faith. And faith is about an active belief in God who perhaps we have not seen, but it is modeled through the way we treat others who we have seen or who we can see. And the father is again so critical in that modeling of faith. And faith is an active belief in God because we know we are children of God, and the father comes in there. And the father also provides the concept of hope, that whatever the problem we may have at this point in time, the father will show great confidence that God will give us the means of solving those problems and the means of salvation at the end of the day. Because don't forget, the father is there to demonstrate that the ultimate success is to ensure that the family members get to heaven, the friends get to heaven, and all those people around, because that is the greatest success from a faith point of view. And finally, the concept of love. The father needs to be able to demonstrate through love for the spouse. And I think that is where the father comes in. If the father is not there, he cannot demonstrate the love for the spouse. But the love for the spouse, irrespective of what is the circumstances in that family, what is the problems there, but love for the spouse is paramount, and then love for the children, love for the friends, love for strangers. You understand? Love for that watchman at your gate who you meet every day, who opens the gate for you. This is what the father has to demonstrate. So I don't want to go into 5 issues, but to just say that the father has these critical roles to play, and this comes from a very supernatural perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Caesar. There is a question very interesting. What do men do? What is the objective of fatherhood in an era where women are domineering? And I just wanted to throw this to Pastor Mbevi to maybe make a comment. We have also Boni Kagiris and Bwana Mutiga. Starting with Pastor Mbevi. Pastor Mbevi, are you still with us? Boni, we can go with you as we wait for Pastor Mbevi. What do we do? What in this, it appears as if there's so much domination by women. Is there something that really fathers can do?
Raymond, I think it goes back to what are we supposed to do? And this has been researched. I think there's been very big arguments about what is practical and what is natural for a man. But just looking at the research that has been done over time, I think it's very clear and sometimes replicated in the animal kingdom that men have to be the ones who provide the leadership. They have to be the ones who strive to provide for the family, and they have to protect. And I know, yes, in a world where women are now fairly empowered, they're also providing materially.
Yeah.
But the leadership is a very natural role for a man. And again, I want to be careful. I'm not saying women cannot lead. I'm just saying that it's a very natural role for a man to want to lead. And a man is happy to provide. Again, you can see the natural sense of that. A man who is able to provide and who is able to protect is actually a proud and happy man. And this applies anywhere you go in the world. If you talk to the deep soul of that man who is able to do these things, they're actually very proud to do it. So as a father, I think it's important that you fulfill these roles that we are talking about.
Yeah, this domineering, how would you react to it? I mean, I'm sure these are some of the conversations that are discussed in this safe space.
Yes, Raymond, but I think domineering is a dangerous word because I think the social setting has changed over time. You have to appreciate that even if the natural settings of men and women have not changed, the social settings have changed. You had Mbevi talking about when we lost the village. So women, I think, had no other choice other than to show up at the table. Some because they had been empowered, and others because just out of pressure to just provide for their families, and also to have some sort of independence. Because when the social setting changed, that independence had to be interfered with, so to speak. So that's why I'm saying I don't want to use the word domineering. I want to say that the social settings have changed. We have to be very sensitive to the kind of roles the women can play, especially when it comes to provision. And we also have to be very careful with the men to make sure that you do not lose what is naturally ordained as your role in the family, which is to lead, which is to provide, and just in a nutshell, and to protect.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bwana Mutiga, any more thoughts on this question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just a quick one. Both speakers have said something very powerful, but I think it's important that men realize that we do have a place of leadership in the home. It's God ordained, and society also expects it. And a lot of people who I speak to who are separated from their husbands, for a lot of cases, it's because of a lack of leadership, that the man just didn't do what he was supposed to do. And, I find that where there's a sense of leadership, a sense of direction, a sense of clarity about where you're taking the family, there's usually no problem with the other dynamic in terms of submission or in terms of following that leadership. So I think men need to step up to that role. I think also men need to appreciate that role is God-given. A lot of men shy away and say, I can't do this, yet God has already given you what you need. And even the position itself is already available for you. And so just being aware of your leadership role and the importance that your presence in that family plays in the success of that family and in the success of those children is one thing that men need to wake up to. It's a realization. It's a snapping tool that you have to decide, I'm going to be a leader because that's what God has created me to be. And everything then falls into line, is what I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies, well, men and ladies, a few ladies who are here, we more or less coming to an end. I would just like to, well, there are many ideas that we've got, the awareness ideas. We've gone through the gaps where this has all started. We've listened to the initiatives that are here being done by Kenyans, been there for a couple of years now. So there is hope. There's a lot of hope in closing the gap. We've heard about safe spaces. It's very important that we're able to create safe spaces for men to talk, to discuss these issues, to discuss how they can be relevant in this changing social setting, as has been mentioned by Bonnie Kagiri. So just very quickly, a parting shot from everyone. I know we can't exhaust such a topic in 1.5 hours, but at least you've been able to hear of various things that are being done. And I will urge all the panelists to just mention on the chat what the organizations are doing or how they can be reached out so that we're able to, anyone in the audience can reach out to them. So maybe parting shot, starting with Pastor Baby, I see you're back. If you could just give us one parting shot for the evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, I dropped off at some point, but just want to thank all of you and want to celebrate the fact that we are gathering together and talking together to help the single parenting issue. But it's really strengthening the families. And this is my parting shot. Let's celebrate all the single moms. My father raised us alone. I celebrate her for a lot of efforts that she made. but she should not have been left alone. Someone else should have gotten in and done something. So my call to all the men in this country, that we will get equipped in the different programs, in Man Enough, Intentional Dads, and other programs here, that we'll get equipped to do the best that we can, to be the fathers who will make sure, and the men who will make sure in this country that no child is raised up without a father figure. May we all work together, men, women, colleges, families, schools, churches, mosques. May we all work together to make sure that we do something about this matter. God bless you all, and let's keep upholding the family as a basic social unit of the society. Thank you. Raymond, you're still muted.
Sorry, thanks, Pastor Baby. Thank you very much for that. Professor Tea, a parting shot.
I'll just add on what Pastor Baby has mentioned. It's about the unit. The unit has to be strengthened. But most importantly, before people get into that unit, that is very key, because they are jumping into a vehicle, they don't know which direction it's going, and each one is going his or her own direction. How can it be driven? So that unit, we have to find ways to focus on it.
Thank you very much, Professor Tea. Bonnie?
Well, thank you, Raymond. I think my last words would be that to all the men out there, happy belated Father's Day. And I just want to encourage the men and let them know that all these things that people talk about go to show that it can be done. It should not look like it's such a heavy burden on our shoulders. No man should imagine, no matter what the situation, that they want to give up or look like, feel like it's not possible to do this fatherhood project. I just want to encourage them that it can be done, and all they need to do is take some initiative, do a course or something, read a book, join a group that is deliberate about these things, and slowly by slowly you keep bettering your competency, and not just yours, it's also the competency of your children, the children that you're raising. So essentially you end up making a better society. So mine is a word of encouragement, and to just say it can be done.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. Dr. Caesar Mwangi?
Yeah, Raymond, I think my fellow panelists have mentioned some of the key points, but I just want to add one thing, that as much as the challenge seems quite huge, we just have to use the hummingbird approach and do the little we can, where we can, when we can. And slowly, we may not change the world in our lifetime, but we will change somebody's world as we continue with the work and the projects that we are doing, that we're involved in. And most important, we should be the change that we want to see out there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Caesar. And finally, Bwana Mutiga.
Thank you, Raymond. This has been a very fruitful conversation. I appreciate the work that all of my colleagues are doing. I want to just say that fatherhood is not about you. For all the men who are listening in, fatherhood is not about you. It's about your children. It's about the success of those kids. And so we need to put aside our own biases and even our own fears, really, and just step to the plate and do what is necessary to see the success of those kids. Because if you make it about you, then it's all about your fears, all about your background and how your father didn't raise you well. And you end up getting stuck in this vicious cycle. We need to step up and realize that fatherhood is about the next generation. It's not about you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Bwana Mutiga. So that's it. We are 9 minutes to the hour. We were meant to finish at 9. I would like to thank all the panelists, including Dr. Mukolo, who had to leave us for a trip he's making this night, and for Steve Kiteto, Victor Salamba, who had indicated that they had other pressing things that had come up. Well, we've been together spiritually, I'm sure. So I urge again the organizers here to indicate how they can be reached, because we have really some solutions, some ways to close the gap. So I'd like to thank everyone and invite you to keep working with us every year when we celebrate these Father's Days conversations. Thank you. Good night. I will leave you while you leave at your leisure. We can listen to a rendition of Dance with Your Father by Redford Chorus, one of our choirs here, and wish you a good night. Thank you very much.